In one of those stupid operations, I had a gunshot wound. A bullet went right from there. My thigh was like this. All the muscle was hanging like this, completely loose and wasted. जब मैंने उसको देखा, I literally was in tears. क्या हो गया ये? How will I ever get back? I was blessed to be born in a very patriotic and a loving family. I guess I had one of the most perfect childhood. Whatever I am today or whatever little I have done, it's all thanks to the upbringing, to the values that I have got from my family. My father wanted to join the forces, and he was not permitted by his mother. And in fact, that is why I joined the army, so that he could live his dream through me. After about 20 years of having served in the army, I am here to share my story and experiences with you. This is how it all happened, and this could happen for you as well. I'm Colonel Kaushal Kashyap, and I'm ex-Special Forces. I have also had the honor of commanding one of the most elite commando units of the country, 52 Special Action Group. I have also been conferred with the Shaurya Chakra, which is the third highest gallantry award in peacetime, and a couple of commendation cards and all. I was born in a small town in Arunachal Pradesh in Changlang district called Meow. I don't know if anybody has heard of that place, but yes, that's where I was born. My parents were serving in the Arunachal government. My father was a class 1 gazetted officer, my mother was a teacher. I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. When I was born, I was a 7 months premature baby. And what everybody remembers is my skin was completely, you could see through my skin. You could see the veins and the blood flowing in it. And the second thing was my hairs were of my shoulder length. So I probably had the sense of style from there. We kept moving to different places in Arunachal, and when I was somewhere around 4 or 5 years old, we moved to a place called Loyliang, which was a veterinary farm in the mid of forest. So it is a completely forested area, huge, one of the most dense forests, and in the mid of it there was this particular farm. And in that farm, it was very common to sight most of these dreaded wild animals like tigers, panthers, even elephants or leopards were very common. In fact, I vividly remember one of those occasions when at our doorstep in the veranda we found a tiger cub. In fact, the tigress and the cub had wandered off into our farm, and when the villagers or the farm members they chased off the tigress, the cub could not run away, and we found it dead on our veranda. This I remember very distinctly. What I don't remember, or I remember very faintly, is those days. I'm told by my parents that whenever had we had these spottings of tiger, everybody in the farm would be informed that please keep your children away, keep them inside, do not wander off, do not go out alone. And that is when my parents tell me that somehow I would do my best to try and sneak out of house. I would just try in many manners somehow to get out of house and go and play outside, and it was very fearful for my parents keeping me indoors. I don't know if these were early signs of glory hunting or trying to show off, but I believe in some manner this has been part of my character, where it's very difficult for me to accept that I am afraid or I am fearful of something. This became much more prominent as I grew older, and we moved on to our hostels. So in our class 6th onwards, I have been in hostels, and I believe hostel की जो education है, that is very important for your personality building. Especially मेरे जैसा कोई जो was generally been short, मैं हमेशा से short रहा हूँ अपने class के line में, maybe first, second, third तक ही रहा हूँ. So somebody like me, it's very important where you are actually faced with challenges, and it is very common to be bullied. And somehow I could never relent to the bullies. I always give them a fight, and हफ्ते के अंदर at least 2 या 3 दिन it would so be that I would go fight up with the bullies and get beaten black and blue. Class 10 के बाद हम दिल्ली में we shifted to our hostel, and यहाँ भी I continued to be short, but then I was much fitter. After my 12th, I took admission in Kirodimal College here in Delhi itself, and I did get admission in National Institute of Fashion Technology, and also I made it into Shipping Corporation of India for the Merchant Navy. But again, as I got selected in National Defence Academy in my first SSB, I was left with very few choices because my father wouldn't have me do anything else. And I joined NDA. I remember the day I landed up in NDA. It was sometime around 28th or 29th of December 1998. As I walked along the Trishul Road, that's what it is called, with squadrons to both the sides, pin drop silence, and absolutely clean, neat and clean. What a kind of feeling I had. And all the squadrons I saw, there was a window that was all open. The study period was going on. The windows and banisters, under the window there's a banister that was all open, and that's how you're expected to sit in a study period. And everybody was seated like that. Nothing moved. I went to the administrative block and I was told for the night it's late, आप जा करके echo squadron में रहिए. So I went and I went to echo squadron. I was shown a place कि you just go and sit there. And the first thing that struck me was everybody was moving around like absolutely robot. Nobody moved. Even the guy where I was seated, he didn't even look back at me. He just stood like that. He was studying. And I was pin drop silence. I mean, there's nothing that was happening. And then suddenly somebody announces something in a sing-song manner. Kuch bola kisi ne. You should have seen that. And there was like, the closest you can think of is like if there's an earthquake and everybody rushes out. It was like that. Everybody, they just closed in their books, closed in their windows, banisters, and rushed out. And in less than a minute, there was pin drop silence again. I peeped outside and I saw everybody was falling. Then one guy comes, he stands on the stairs, and he was passing some instructions, and he says something like, okay, first term was Murga. And by the time I looked at him, Murga, and I tried to find the first termers, they were already in Murga, less than a second. Then he says something like, okay, all third termers start rolling. And by the time I look at the third termers, some of the quicker ones already had undertaken 2 rolls and they were up. So it was like that. And this continued for some time, and as suddenly as it started, they suddenly disappeared and they were out for dinner. Somebody called me, I went out, we had dinner and we came back. And after I came back, आने के बाद में what is classically called the Patal Lok, that is what started. I was called कि आइए आप ऊपर, their 6 termers are looking for you. So I went on the 2nd floor. That is where everybody, you could see all the asanas. There was somebody on his head down and only his toes touching and hands free. That's called Maharaja. Then somebody who was doing a front roll. There were some others who were doing back roll. There were some doing side rolls. In NDA, above the doors, there is a mesh. So there were a couple of selected ones who were climbed up there, hanging onto the mesh, and that's called a Spider-Man. So that's what was happening all around, and that was my introduction into NDA. As I went, the 6 termers, they asked me to do a couple of push-ups. I was pretty fit, so yeah, I did quite a few of them. And then they asked me to do a couple of pull-ups. I could do. I was a short one, so always people told me that if you do pull-ups, you will gain height. I don't know if I have actually gained height, but then I became good in PT. I could do quite a few. They were very impressed, and then they became pally. Very casually they started interacting with me, and they said कि आप कल you will get a squadron. So go to this squadron, you come to echo squadron, you'll do very good, and things like that. And they said go to any squadron, don't go to Mike squadron. So I was curious, sir ये Mike squadron में क्यों नहीं जाना है, ऐसा क्या है? They said अच्छा Mike squadron makes para commandos. So I said, what is this para commando, sir? And then one of the worst guys who was the most harassed or most distressed, जिसकी सबसे ज़्यादा लगी हुई थी, they point to that guy कि वो देख रहा है, उसको हम para commando बन रहे हैं, और Mike squadron में सारे के सारे para commando बनते हैं. So that is how it started, the word para commando and Mike's Cordon, and I'm sure you would have already guessed it. The next day I got Mike's Cordon, and whatever they said, they mentioned, it was exactly like that. Mike's Cordon was for para commandos, and that's how but I think the tougher the training, the tougher you become, and I completely owe everything to my Mike's Cordon. In our second term in NDA was celebrating its Golden Jubilee celebration. So in that Golden Jubilee celebration, a lot of guests had come in, and we were presenting a good show. And out of that number of shows that were being presented, I had one small role in it. I had to carry a rock or something, and it was part of the light and sound. So I had to lift up and light with freeze, and we had to do this act. And 3 सेकंड के बाद लाइट ऑफ होती है एंड वी जस्ट गो इन. दैट वाज व्हाट माय रोल वाज. सूडान ब्लॉक के जो फर्स्ट फ्लोर लॉबी है उसमें देयर आर ह्यूज पोर्ट्रेट्स ऑफ all ex-NDAs who have been awarded Ashok Chakra and Paramvir Chakra. I would go to each one of them and read जो उनके citations लिखे हुए, and literally I found myself in that environment. लेफ्टिनेंट अरुण खेत्रपाल, कर्नल नायर, इनके मैं पढ़ के I would wonder कि कल if I am faced with such a challenge, will I be able to take those decisions that these brave gentlemen have taken? I spent hours just reading and trying to visualize and placing myself. And out of those, the most fascinating that I found were those guys of the Special Forces. Major Sudhir Walia, Major Arun Jasrotia, both of them from 9 Para SF. So once when I was going through this, this was a regular affair throughout जब भी practice होता था, and I was standing probably in front of Major Sudhir Walia or Major Arun Jasrotia, I don't remember which one, but उनके सामने जब था, one of my friends, he was a course senior, he just came across and he pointed to the Balidan Badge that we wear here. He pointed to the Balidan Badge and he said, "You know what is this?" I did not tell them. So he said, "This is the Balidan. And this is given only to the Special Forces guys. When you serve in a Special Forces unit, you have conducted operations with them, the difficult ones, that is when you are given the Balidan. Not just after clearing probation." And I don't know why this Balidan, I found such a huge pull to that Balidan. I saw that and I could imagine ki what is Balidan. As the word suggests, Balidan matlab sacrifice. Sacrifice matlab you have accepted your life now belongs to the nation. You are not going to say no to any of the dreadest mission. जितने भी आपको बुरे से बुरे mission है, you are not going to say no. You are not going to think of your personal safety. You are going to be completely committed for that cause. I found a very strong connect to that, and it stayed with me. Slowly, I became a Special Forces optee. But then something happened towards my end of term of 5th term as I was growing senior. I was very good in physicals, and I was going for the higher PT test, and I was demonstrating to my entire course how a handspring is done. I had done it a number of times. I was giving a demonstration, and when I was doing this particular time, morning PT, I somehow missed that the mat, there was something under the mat and it was not firm. My knee just snapped. I had a serious medial meniscus tear, and I went from there, and in AIMS I got myself operated. I got a medial meniscus, the meniscus had to be removed. But इसके लिए क्या हुआ कि after my 6th term, I was in a recovery phase. And thanks to my squadron office and all the seniors and the adjutant and everyone there, I could pass out. अपने time से मैं pass out हो गया था NDA से. लेकिन this thing happened, and because of this, after this we went to IMA. IMA was very uneventful. मतलब normally the focus is more on your training for the army. And जब मैं IMA में गया था, and from there I opted for infantry because I wasn't sure कि शायद मैं probation जो इतना difficult होता है, और क्योंकि yes, everybody knows probation is very difficult. So I wasn't too sure that I'll be able to make it in my probation. And because of that, I had opted for infantry, and I got 3 Jat. 3 Jat again is one of the finest battalion of the Indian Army. It has got the record of deepest penetration into Pakistan. पाकिस्तान के अंदर 1965 के वॉर में लाहौर तक पहुंच गए थे ये यूनिट विदाउट आर्टिलरी सपोर्ट, विदाउट एनीथिंग, अकेले एक यूनिट. इसने इछोगल कनाल विच वाज सपोज्ड टू बी इम्प्रेग्नेबल इसको 2 बार क्रॉस किया. Yeah, so that kind of a legacy 3 had. The unit was in along the line of control पाकिस्तान के साथ में, जो line of control है हमारा JNK में, उरी सेक्टर में. That is where the unit was, and I went and joined the unit there. I was really enjoying. उस समय there was no ceasefire, and we were eyeball to eyeball. कुछ जगह 70 meters, कुछ जगह 100 meters, कुछ जगह 150 meters में हमारे और पाकिस्तानी पोस्ट होते थे. And we played a game. You see a Pakistani, you shoot, and he sees you, he shoots you back. वो उनके स्नाइपर्स डिप्लॉयड होते थे, हमारे यहाँ से डिप्लॉयड होते थे, एंड दैट इज़ हाउ द लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल वाज. एंड बीच बीच में एंटरटेनमेंट जब काफ़ी नहीं होती है, देन वी स्टार्ट विद द बम्बार्डमेंट, और जिसमें आर्टिलरी के शेल्स जाते हैं एंड द एंटायर अर्थ शेक्स. So this is all happening good, and then I didn't stay very long with them because वहाँ से I got a call for Core Battle School, where anybody who inducts into Jammu and Kashmir, he has to go and do a pre-induction training at Core Battle School, and that's where I came. और वहाँ पे जो कमांडर थे कर्नल जॉन डी बिट्टू, a legendary figure of 9 Para Special Forces, and उनसे मिलने के बाद में lot of things just changed. I learned a lot. He would narrate, he would go on hours and keep talking about the kind of operations they had done, and it showed me how professional these guys were. And I did had that baggage of that pull Balidan ke liye, and I realized 2 things here. First is, there is only one life. जो कुछ भी आपको करना है, आपने इसी लाइफ के अंदर करना है, एंड ये जो करना है ये टाइम सेंसिटिव है. जो डिसीजन आप आज ले सकते हैं, 4 साल के बाद में इट होल्ड्स नो वैल्यू. यू हैव टू वेक अप राइट नाउ एंड टेक दैट डैम डिसीजन. इफ यू डोंट डू दैट, that decision is lost. And the next one is, I realized from Colonel Britto then that everybody, especially people serving in the army or the forces, everybody at some point of time is a special forces optee. कभी ना कभी वो हमेशा special forces का optee रहता है, but the difference is lot of them do not take out the courage to go and opt for it. So I was not ready कि मैं हिम्मत नहीं रखूँगा और जाकर के ऑप्ट नहीं करूँगा. सो आई मेड इट. द डिसीजन वाज कि वेदर मैं वहीं से अपनी फॉर्म भर दूँ, वेदर आई ऑप्ट फ्रॉम द कोर बैटल स्कूल वेयर आई वाज, और आई गो बैक टू माई यूनिट और अपने कमांडिंग ऑफिसर से रिक्वेस्ट करूँ और अपना फॉर्म भरूँ. माई कमांडिंग ऑफिसर वॉज अ थॉरो जेंटलमैन एंड अ वेरी फाइन लीडर, एंड आई हैड फुल फेथ. मुझे यकीन था कि इफ़ आई गो एंड रिक्वेस्ट हिम कि सर आई वांट टू गो टू द स्पेशल फोर्सेस, ही इज़ नॉट गोइंग टू से नो. But somehow, I mean, all due regards to him, I could not let decisions of my life to be dependent on somebody else. मैं अपने लाइफ के डिसीजंस खुद लेना चाहता था. मैं चाहता था कि चार्ज मैं खुद, लकाम जो है मेरे हाथ में रहे. So I opted from there, and Colonel Bitto processed the form, and that's how I landed up in 21 Para Special Forces. I'm sure most of you would have heard a lot of stories about probation and how difficult it is doing a probation for special forces. And yes, I must tell you, it is as difficult as these guys tell you. जितना आपने सुना है उतना ही difficult है. और एक चीज़ मैं ऐड करना चाहूँगा कि जब आप कर रहे हैं, आपकी लगी पड़ी है, तो आपको ज़्यादा difficult लगता है. So yes, a lot of people may feel that I am trying to demotivate youth from joining the special forces or opting for it. It is not made for everybody. सबके लिए है ही नहीं वो. Everybody can't go and do that. You have to have something special in you to be able to last out there and get selected. A lot of people who even last out there don't get selected. It is the attitude that's finally what matters. Probation is all about long marches, long runs. In fact, marches सही नहीं होगा. With heavy loads, और वापस आने के बाद में lot of physical activity, obstacle courses, navigations, and then lot of tasks. अलग अलग से आपको challenging tasks मिलते हैं, and followed by intellectual tasks, especially for officers. आपको बहुत सारे book reviews वगैरह वगैरह मिलते हैं. And for me it was slightly different because I was a local. I was from Assam, and मुझे वहाँ पे uh, I got involved in operations as well in the covert mode where I could just mingle around with the crowd, and वहाँ पे a lot of int officers took interest in me, तो मुझे बुला करके अलग से ले जाते थे. That was a good break for me as well. But during this time, मैंने one of my company commanders and the probation officer, I once overheard him. वो अपने CEO को report कर रहा था, and while he was talking, he said कि sir, this guy is very good, and I want him in my team. I overheard this, and when you overhear something like this, when a company commander or your probation officer is trying to pull you अपने team के अंदर, then it means that you are through. आप probation में select हो गए. So that was very good for me, and this happened. So what happened is उन्होंने मुझे आगे कर दिया. They adjusted me in the batch which was going ahead, and I had luckily completed all my physical tests by the second month. And the third month I was completely on operations and all, because right at the end of third month, in one of those stupid operations, I had a gunshot wound. A bullet went right from there, and it was a huge, took out a lot of things from my knee, and I made so many mistakes. इतनी सारी गलतियाँ की थी मैंने उस ऑपरेशन के अंदर. Notwithstanding, I'm lucky to be alive, and जो 4-4.5 घंटे शायद मुझे लगे होंगे वहाँ से वापस मेडिकल अटेंशन जहाँ पे थी हॉस्पिटल वापस आते आते, the only thing on my mind is, damn, these guys are going to throw me out now. I'll not get selected in the probation. But as I mentioned, I was lucky. I had done off with all my physical tests and all. And when the doctors opened the cast, जब पहली बार cast को खोला, I have a decent thigh. The cast को खोला, my thigh was like this. The knee was huge with a stitch mark, and again the calf, all the muscle was hanging like this, completely loose and wasted. जब मैंने उसको देखा, I literally was in tears कि क्या हो गया ये, how will I ever get back? The doctor said कि if you want to ever run again, you will have to work very hard on your quadriceps. बहुत exercise करना पड़ेगा. And from that day till about 3 months, मैंने जितना भी, all my waking hours, I was just exercising, nothing else. 5-6 months after the injury, जब मैं डॉक्टर्स के बाद रिव्यू के लिए गया, there is a policy in the army कि आप, I was A3 is medically down. A3 के बाद you cannot become A1 मतलब आप shape 1 हो जाए. A3 के बाद they have to put you on A2 for good about 6-7 months, and then आप A1 होते हैं. I could not wait. With so much of जोश and passion, आप स्पेशल फोर्सेस में आए हैं, you have made it in the probation, and अभी आप ऑपरेशन नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, आप जंप्स के लिए नहीं जा पा रहे हैं. So this was pretty sad for me. So what I did, I kept the file on the doctor's table, and I started doing knee to chest. Knee to chest is when you jump, put your knees on your chest. This is what we had learned in India, and I could do very good. And the doctor got up, आराम से बेटा, what are you doing? Stop. And I told him, sir, this is my file. I had a gunshot wound. यहाँ से गोली गई थी. And you challenge me, I can beat any one of these जो आपके पास बैठे हैं. Please make me shape 1. A very nice gentleman he was, and he rushed off to the registrar and all that, and इधर उधर करके. It took some time, but then I did become A1. And then we went for para jumps and all, and really enjoyed the course where you're jumping off of aircrafts and all. So 21 paras of I'll go back to that incident where I was still recovering from my injury, and I wasn't shape 1 yet, but yes, I was fit. So for that small period, what I was made the adjutant. Adjutant is the staff officer, or he is more of an administrative officer, and that is when the Bhutan operations had started. So Bhutan army had launched an operation against all the insurgents that were in their area, and were trying to chase them off, and our entire unit had mobilized to one of the forward areas. Forward area में चले गया था, and because of lack of space, me and the commanding officer were all sitting in the same small hall. Commanding officer was Colonel Mandeep Singh Man Sena Medal, again a legendary figure, who turned the unit around, and this gentleman was seated there, and as adjutant, I had to interview all those guys who have just come back from leave. So one by one, I was interviewing them. and there was one guy who had just come back from leave, and his village was on the forward areas of along the Bhutan border. And I was so engrossed in trying to understand वहाँ पे militants के movement का pattern क्या है, कैसे आते हैं, कैसे खाते हैं, क्या रहते हैं. So the commanding officer just looked at me and said, Kashyap, why don't you go to his village and stay there and find out yourself? The same day we moved out, me and this guy. We stayed in his house for a couple of days, and that's when the commanding officer again called me कि anything? Say yes sir, there's a lot of scope, and just give me a troop. And he sent some troops with me, and वहाँ पे एक महीने के अंदर we had record catches. We got IDs, we got weapons, we got about 13-14 surrenders, we got about 13-14 apprehensions, and I got a chief commendation for that, and that was, I would say, very nice. And followed by this, the unit moved into Manipur. Manipur was a different ballgame altogether. That time insurgency was at its peak, and till that time Manipur was more of a CPO sector, that was Central Police Organization, so only the CRPF, BSF were deployed there, and things had gone out of control. Large areas of the entire state was liberated zone, and when we moved in there, we really enjoyed operations. In fact, beautiful operations we have conducted. Our unit has had a major role in bringing normalcy. Things have gone worse now, but then before this, when things had normalized, our unit had a major role in that. We jumped off helicopters and did operations. We crossed huge rivers. The classical operation would be where we go inside the areas with completely liberated areas where rebels control the entire area, stay there hidden for good amount of time, observe their movement, strike them, and come back with the bodies. That was a classical kind of operations that happened. One operation which I would like to mention, which shows the mindset of special forces. I wasn't part of that operation. This was where our battalion had gone in, and we had information of a particular area. We observed that area. We couldn't see any movement. So the next day we moved inside so that we can interact with the people. So when we closed in onto the village, that is when we realized one of the troops, उनका एक magazine, जो weapon का magazine होता है, magazine छूट गया था. So these guys came back. We sent that troop कि जाइए आप जरा magazine लेकर के आइए ढूंढ करके. So as they were coming back, this troop was ambushed, and we lost Naik James. James had done probation with me. Such a fine guy, one of the best scouts. We lost James. उसके बाद the entire area. The commanding officer was himself in that operations, and the team commanders, they did such a fantastic job. They just moved around and cordoned up the entire area. We killed each and every militant that was there. The point is, you mess around with us, we don't let you live to tell that story. अब हमसे पंगे लेंगे, आपको हम जिंदा नहीं छोड़ेंगे कि आप जा करके ये एक स्टोरी सुनाएंगे किसी को. A militant organization was targeting a particular community in a different state, and overnight my team was moved, and when we came in this area, just about 10 days we got success, and which was followed by another where we killed the commander and all. So in that I pretended as a school student, and I had gone right inside those areas where nobody had ever gone, and dressed as a civil dress, and with a buddy of mine, I went inside, and that's where, while we were talking, we were eating food, we were talking, and while interacting, I realized there are some militants who have come at the next hutment. It's just about 400-500 meters away. I went, took a look, came back. We immediately launched an operation, and we were successful. This was followed by another operation where, after this particular operation happened, this area got a little disturbed because now they realized there's a different force which has come in. I mean, when these guys operate, you don't get to know what has happened. So people were a little more conscious, and वहाँ पे ऐसे था कि civilians wouldn't wear shoes. वो नंगे पाँव घूमते थे, and जब वो नंगे पाँव घूमते थे तो we experimented with different things. We started wearing civil shoes, but then any 7-8 people moving around with shoes, people were a little suspicious or they're careful, and it's not easy to go and hunt the militants. So we experimented going without shoes. For good about a month, हमने अपने आप को tone up किया. We did PT, we ran around on the roads, we went around without shoes, and we practiced a lot. And finally, we launched this operation. And when we launched this particular operation, we just had information कि अंदर जा करके कुछ area है जहाँ पे these guys come and have meetings. That was all that we knew. I had a civilian source to take us there, and this source, when we entered the jungle, the entire jungle was burnt. So अगर जंगल जल जाता है तो it is not the same jungle as anybody has seen it. So this guy was entirely lost. उसको पता नहीं चल रहा था. 4-5 दिन हम भटकते रहे, घूमते रहे, and all my juniors would come and tell, साहब इसको कुछ नहीं पता, ऐसे उल्लू बना रहा है, हमें घुमाया जा रहा है. And somehow I could not come back. I said, no, we'll keep moving. And we kept moving, and I think around 4th or 5th day, we hit the jackpot where we got a commander and all. This has happened to me a number of times, not just here, even in other operations I have seen. When things start moving in a manner where you don't see the end, आपको कुछ दिखता नहीं है, आपको लगता है कि it's a futile effort, नहीं हो रहा कुछ, I would suggest just keep going a little more, and new avenues will open. Some door or some window will open and miracles will happen. And this has happened to me a number of times. So from there I was picked up for United Nations mission, और हम Congo, DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo में deploy हुए. And जो भी यहाँ पे लगता है ना मुझे, who's not a proud Indian, I believe they should be sent there. क्योंकि आप वहाँ जा करके जब आप देखोगे, that is when you will realize how blessed we are to be born in a place like this, like our country. इतनी starvation, poverty, there is just no certainty कि एक जगह से आदमी निकलता है, he is going to reach the other place. It's very sad. In fact, I was in a place, I was company commander of a place which was surrounded by the rebels, and there was a refugee camp, and हमारे truck में से जो wastage था, I didn't know of this. When the wastage, we would take it out and we would dump it outside the village. And what I did not know was, इसके साथ में बड़े सारे बच्चे जाते थे, they would just accompany, and when we dumped the wastage, वो garbage के बीच में, these guys would just go and try and pick up something to eat. Small children, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And when we realized what happened was, one of these days, one small child, just about 5 years old, as they are dumping the garbage, this guy just dived onto it. And there's a sharp object, probably a beer can or beer bottle or something, and this guy had an entire cut from here to here. और उसके बड़े भाई ने उसको, his elder brother, he brought him to us. Please stitch him up. And this guy wasn't even crying. This is so common. It's very sad. But then, yes, after that, I moved back to my unit. I had a couple of excellent operations again. And after a small stint of staff appointment, I was picked up for command of 52 Special Action Group of National Security Guards. Energy is different. Energy जो है पूरे देश का, it's a national contingency force. That is, if there is a terrorist strike anywhere in the country, it is this force. And trust me, energy के अंदर जब हम थे, for 18 hours a day, सिर्फ आप training to mobilize and training to counter. Next, how is going to be the next terrorist attack? सिर्फ आप ये सोच, सिर्फ आपकी ये planning और सिर्फ उसकी तैयारी. After my NAG tenure, I was moved out as deputy commander in eastern Ladakh, and that is when I realized how difficult it is to fight the nature. वहाँ पे -40 degrees Celsius, completely everything is frozen. Something as abundant as the air that we breathe, ये जो oxygen हम breathe करते हैं, इतना abundant जो यहाँ पे है, वहाँ पे that is scarce. And hats off to our soldiers who are doing that every day. And after that, I decided to put up my application for premature retirement. And in my second innings here, we've got a number of different ventures. I have started my own company by the name of Grevok. And दो अच्छे ventures हैं. First is we have a software platform, Coach Lookup. कि कोई भी अगर कुछ भी courses चलाना चाहता है, anybody wants to run a course, whether be it You want to teach runners, you want to teach martial artists, आप योगा सिखाना चाहते हैं, आप आर्ट सिखाना चाहते हैं, आप म्यूज़िक सिखाना चाहते हैं, you can just get onto the platform and आपके सारे back end operations वगैरह handle हो सकते हैं. And second is we are in fact opening a academy by the name of Vivok Academy, जिसमें we're going to train Agniveers and जवान level entry के लिए for CRPF, BSF, CISF, all the CAPFs, army के लिए, and also for the police forces. I'm also in the mid of writing a book, which is going to be about leadership and team management. Whatever I have learned from my experience in the services, I'm going to bring this down here. And yes, if I have to leave a message आप सबके लिए, it would be there's only one life, एक ही ज़िंदगी है, जो करना है आपने इसी में कीजिए. जो भी आप करना चाहते हैं, इसके बाद once this time is lost, you're not going to come back here. And second is never give up on your dreams. अपने सपनों को जाया मत कीजिए.